let's talk a little bit about the earlier game. Let's talk about Bama and Cincinnati. Score 27-6 when it was all said and done, and it felt larger than that, but also closer than that. And let me explain. First, we got Brian Robinson out here absolutely doing the doggone thing. Here's Slade Bolden. Man, Slade Bolden out there just making it happen in the slot without any John Mechie. And then you can see Alabama's defense getting after Desmond Ridder, getting after Jerome Ford. But for me, the story of the game is Brian Robinson, who rushes for over 200 yards, right, on 26 carries. That is like one of the 4 best rushing efforts in a college football playoff semifinal ever, right? And this is for a guy who needed to wait his turn, quite honestly. And when I say wait his turn, I don't like using that term as much as some others do, but in this case, he's behind Damian Harris and Najee Harris, right? So Damian Harris for 2 years, Najee Harris for 2 years, and then as a fifth-year senior, he finally gets some shine. As a matter of fact, way back in the preseason, he was one of the dudes that I was calling one of the best tailbacks in the sport, and people were going, hey, man, we didn't see that much of that dude. Shouldn't you have Breece Hall there? Shouldn't you have Bijan Robinson there? Like, yeah, they're there too. It's a very good year for tailbacks. But we've seen what Alabama tailbacks have been, and we know what the offensive line is. And in a game where Alabama, Goliath, got to show up to Cinderella's door and say, no, we're kicking it all the way in. They did it behind this offensive line. They did it behind their fifth-year senior and starter at tailback in Brian Robinson. And I'm really, at times, was going, why is Bill O'Brien going away from Brian Robinson at all? Like, if it's up to me, probably runs the ball 40 times. Like, honestly, because as great as he was, this is a game in which the Heisman winner wasn't very good. Like, Bryce Young was not very good. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but I want to get into that by talking about Desmond Ridder and just what this game wasn't for him, all right? So, Bama's defense batted down 4 Desmond Ridder passes in this game. The reason that is significant is, number one, that is the same number of passes that Alabama batted down in 2020 when they played 5'11" Stetson Bennett. That might serve them well in the national championship game, but also because Desmond Ridder is 6'4". So what that means is the arm angle, the arm slot is awful. He needs to get that fixed. And this is a guy who many people believe is a first-round draft pick, and this is the best team he's ever faced, and this is the team, this is the game for which he's probably going to be evaluated. As a matter of fact, scouts say it's your 3 best games, it's your 3 worst games. Those are the games they're looking at, right? This is going to be in both groups, right? Because it's the best team you're playing, and it's one of the worst efforts that you displayed. As a matter of fact, some of this is on him. I mentioned the pass defense or passes defended. Some of it is on his offensive line, which was just getting caved in. But in the first half, he was horrible. 17 passes attempted, just 8 completions, 59 yards, sacked 3 times. But also in this game, Cincinnati set a new low for total yards in a first half in a college football playoff with just 76. All right, some of that is obviously how great Alabama's defense is, but they were hurt in the secondary. There's no Josh Jobe, right? He's out with surgery over there. And they got a true freshman at a corner that, quite honestly, looked like he was getting cooked. Like, my man's name is JaQuincy McKinstry. They call him Kool-Aid. But Leonard Taylor was lined up on Kool-Aid like he found an extra cup of sugar and was stirring it all up on the end zone line there, man. Like, they dialed up a couple pass plays where they should have scored, where they should have got 6. And Malachi Moore got in front of one of them. Henry To'oTo'o got in front of another one. And those are 2 of the 4 passes defended. And that stops you from scoring. That stops the momentum because that could have made the game not just a 1-score game, but put Cincy on even footing with Alabama as the score continued to grow. Meanwhile, Brian Robinson carrying the offense for Alabama as Bryce Young finishes 17 of 28 for 181 yards, 3 TDs, but also a pick. I want to get to that pick here in just a second, but I need to say, I mentioned the stars, and I mentioned the stars matter, like George Strait, stars on the water. People want to say stars don't really matter when they lose. That's what I say. But I'm looking at Sauce Gardner. A1 Sweet Feet Sauce Gardner on one side. I'm looking at Kobe Bryant's namesake, Kobe Bryant, right? Changed his number to 8 for this game from 7 to 8. And those are the two best tandem, or that is the best tandem of corners in college football, bar none, okay? And that secondary, for the most part, with those two dudes, was locking people up. Jameson Williams did not have the kind of game that we expect from one of the 3 best receivers in the country, right? And I get that John Mechie's out, but it's Bama. You're supposed to have dudes, and they had dudes. So what they did, rather than try to get Jameson Williams off of Kobe Bryant or go at Sauce Gardner, is absolutely line up a true freshman on the numbers against my man, Arquan Bush. And not to put too fine a point on it, but Ja'Cory Brooks is a 5-star and a member of that 2021 class that set a record for the highest point total for any recruiting class in the rankings era. And he showed what a 5-star does against a 3-star. Like, that's what that was. He was man up, matched up, and he beat him over the top for 44-yard touchdown that really separated these two teams, and I think began the avalanche that was Alabama's defense continuing to pound on Cincinnati's offense. But I need to underscore that because this is what the game is. The game is a math problem, okay? If they got 8 in the box, we got one-on-one on the outside. We got to win, right? That's a math problem. So can your Jimmy beat their Joe? Can your Ja'Cory beat their Arquan? And that's why Nick Saban puts such an emphasis on recruiting. He figures I can develop anybody, but I can only develop them to the limits of their talent. So I need to have more talented players than everybody else. This is a man who really did not appreciate the NFL because it was a socialist model where the worst team gets the best pick. And he's like, wait a second, what? And then to use his logic, you're telling me I only get 1 first-round pick, and that's if nobody traded it away. Whereas as a college football coach, I can get 25 first-round picks every single year. And that's exactly what he has done. 74 of the 85 scholarship players at Alabama are blue-chip recruits. That is outstanding, and it's also just underscoring. There's only so much you can do when ability is at issue, right? I can only coach you so much. Sometimes we can overdevelop you. Sometimes you're Sauce Gardner and you come out 160 pounds in Detroit. They blow you up to 200 pounds and you work so hard on your feet that your technique is elite. Sometimes Ja'Cory Brooks is just faster than Arquan Bush. It's that simple. All right. So I mentioned the stars and I mentioned how these things ought to matter, but I also want to give Cincy their props here. Okay? Cincy's defense deserved a better offense, okay? Scored 7-3 at the end of the first quarter in a game that many people thought was going to be a blowout with Alabama being up 28-0, right? For perspective there, Oklahoma trailed LSU 21-7 in the 63-28 thumping, all right? It was 10-3 after a series where Cincy had Bama in 3rd and 14 and 3rd and goal from the 15-yard line. Next drive, Cincy was first to punt, but JoJo Earl muffed it. Cincy recovers that, we might be also looking at a different ball game here. I'm saying that Cincy deserved to be in this game. They're the only undefeated team left. They won their conference championship. They beat a top 6 Notre Dame team that may or may not beat Oklahoma State in their game tomorrow, right? Tomorrow being today. Happy New Year. I just wanted to also just give a little bit of flowers. Just smell them for Cincy for what they've chosen to, or what they have accomplished. And whether or not you want to actually say they deserve to be there or not, 13-0, 13-1, you lost to the best team, we think, in college football, or at least the number 1 team in college football, the team that beat Georgia. I mean, if nothing else, Texas A&M is going to use your loss to try to claim a national championship. I'm joking, but it's a joke that I really like to tell. Thanks for watching this video, and remember, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos on the #1 Ranked Show YouTube channel.